Hey guys, week 13. This is basically the last week that I'll submit new material. I do have some articles and stuff that I'll share with you guys next week. But yeah, this is basically it. Just so you're aware, I do need all assignments in as soon as possible to finish marking. Our marks are due on Friday, so I have to have those in. Book return is this week, so grade 12s is on the Tuesday, and it's also based on alphabetical, so it's A to D, E to K, L to Q, and R to Z. So please make sure you follow those times. It was also sent out in an email from admin and from the school. So just so that we know, and as you're coming in, you're bringing your books, and also if you borrowed any technology, things like that. Okay. So we're gonna go through the last two chapters. They're really short, so they don't take much time. Like usually I get them done in a day anyways. There is some reading for you to do. The only thing I want you to complete this week is there's a survey that I'm going to post that's a remote learning survey. And so it kind of goes over everything that we've done in the last few weeks. And it's really helpful for me to get feedback from you guys on what worked and what didn't work and things like that, especially if we do end up having to go into this again next year at any point in time. And so it's really helpful for me. So please, if you could complete that, I'm not going to put it in the self-evaluation section. I'm going to put it in the assessment section. Okay. So it's not worth marks, but it's really helpful for me. So please do that. So we'll go through the PowerPoint. So like I said, it's pretty quick. So all of Unit 4 is basically just like how should citizens be shaped by ideology. So like if you're living in a nation, if you're living in a country, what if the nation that you live in contradicts your own personal beliefs? So like let's say they go to war, then you don't believe in the war. Do you have to go to war? Is it your duty to the nation? Is it your duty to your like the people that you live with, kind of thing like that? And so citizenship, we often have to think like, okay, is citizenship a privilege or is it a responsibility? And if it's a responsibility, what are my responsibilities? Like, do I have to follow all the laws? Do I have to vote? Things like that. And as a citizen, what do I get? As a Canadian citizen, you get the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and you get everything that entails with that. You have the right to vote, and you have the right to do all of these different things. And this is part of your responsibilities, but also that privilege of being a citizen of Canada, which really is a privilege because honestly, like Canada has some of the the best laws in the world to protect us, our individual rights, while still focusing on the collective. And so we're really lucky here that we don't really have to worry about a lot of those things. And so that is it's a privilege. We have to understand that. So, do we just have to care about the citizens of the nation that we live in, or do we have a obligation to help everybody in the world? So what are our roles as a global citizen, as a member of our earth? What do we have a role in doing? So some of the examples that they talk about in the textbook are like the Orange Revolution, which you would have learned about in Social 20. So this is an example of how like ordinary citizens can take action and affect governmental change. So essentially the, excuse me. Oh, sorry, I just need to go back. The belief was that the presidential election was rigged. And so the person who won had basically like faked the vote. And so citizens demanded another election. It was determined that like these votes had to be retaken. And then a new vote occurred. And so this guy, Viktor Yushchenko. So he was the president who they believe should have been elected, but like the vote was rigged. And then he actually got poisoned, and you see how his face kind of changed. The poison, it's like a dioxin, and it basically like impacted his face. And so it was all this corruption within Ukraine. And so this happened in 2004, but this was like a perfect kind of example of how ordinary citizens change government action because they got the new election and then he was elected. Okay. As well, looking at Vietnam. So there was an anti-war movement against the war in Vietnam. And by 1968, there's over 500,000 troops in Vietnam, and so many people didn't believe in the war within the United States. And a lot of that is because the media, like people didn't really know kind of everything about what went on in a war as much as they did in Vietnam, because there's so much more like televised stuff, and so people weren't really aware of it. And so, excuse me. So more and more people were against this war. And so November 15th, 1969, there was the largest peace march in history. And this was in Washington. So if you've ever seen Forrest Gump, this is where Forrest gives his like speech and he sees Jenny in the water and he's Jenny, and then he runs to her in the water and they embrace and it's loving. So that's this peace rally. But it had over 500,000 protesters, which was huge. And by 1976, the war was over and Vietnam was united as one communist country, and the United States really didn't have any success in the war. And so a lot of people really felt like it was a wasted war and that they never should have gotten involved. So if we don't like what our government is doing, should we speak out and think about things like gay marriage or democracy or pro-democracy, foreign aid, labor rights, climate change, war, protecting animals, environmental protection? These are all things that ordinary citizens can speak out to their government about, and oftentimes enact change. So you can think about like PETA, or like with climate change and like some of the protesters and stuff like that, or like even like oil and gas. And so like the protests like against the pipelines or for the pipelines, like, you know, that one that was on the Anthony Henday and stuff like that, like that really got people's attention because the Henday is used a lot. And so things like that. So that was chapter 15. So like I said, pretty quick. And chapter 16 is basically the same thing. How are we shaped by ideology? These are some key terms: citizenship, ideology, local and national and global issues. Some people see citizenship as something they're entitled to. So I'm a Canadian citizen, therefore I deserve these. Others see it as a responsibility and something that you do. I'm a Canadian citizen, and if I do things for Canada, I get rights and privileges in return. And you'll often see that it changes based on how people have become a Canadian citizen. If people were born a Canadian citizen, they often have different opinions on it compared to people who had to move to Canada, get citizenship, things like that. So citizenship can be determined by where you're born. So I was born in Canada, and so I have Canadian citizenship. It can also be determined by the citizenship and nationality of your parents. So let's say your mom is pregnant with you, and she goes on a trip, and then she gives birth to you in Italy. Okay, so you would then receive Canadian citizenship because your parents are Canadian citizens. But because you were born on Italian land, you would also receive Italian citizenship. So you would have dual citizenship. Now, some countries don't allow dual citizenship. So Canada does allow it, but then there are other countries that won't allow it. And so sometimes you have to like renounce one or the other. So like France, for example, you can't have dual citizenship. You can either be a French citizen or you can be whatever. And so I had a prof who he and his wife wanted to become Canadian citizens. And so but they were born in France. And so they actually renounced their French citizenship and then became Canadian citizens because they live here and that was more important to them. And so that's called naturalization, when you apply to become a citizen. Now, within Canada, if you're a child, if you're under the age of 18, it's easier to become a Canadian citizen. If you're an adult, I think it takes 5 years. You have to have worked and lived a certain period of time within Canada to be able to become a Canadian citizen. And then you also have to take a test, which is, it's based usually on province. And so depending on the province that you live in, those are the types of questions that you're asked. But there's all sorts of different examples online if you want to take a Canadian citizenship test. So that's really it. And so that's what I mean. Like unit 4 is so short, and that's why we don't do a unit exam or a quiz or anything for it. But I would really, let's just say 30-2. I apologize. I would really appreciate it if you do that remote learning survey. It'll just really help me out and give me feedback on what worked. So please do that. We are almost done. We're so close to the end. And so please let me know if you have any questions on previous or missing assignments. You can call me, you can email me, you can send me a message on Google Classroom. Everything has to be in by June 19th. But when I say June 19th, that's the morning, because I have to be able to mark it to submit those assignments. So please have them in as soon as possible. Okay. Thursday would really be better. Okay. Anyways, and that's that. And just on a personal note, I just want to let you know, and this won't really impact you guys because you're in grade 12, but I've accepted a position at St. Oscar Romero for next year. And so I'm actually leaving AOB, and it was a really hard decision, especially in light of everything, because I can't really say goodbye to anyone. But it's significantly closer to my house, and it's a new school and new challenges and change, and I'm both excited and terrified because I've only ever taught at AOB. But I just wanted to let you guys know. So I hope I see you at the book return, because I'm coming on the Tuesday to help with book return. And then I also hope I see you at like the graduation kind of drive-by thing. So I can actually see you in person and say congratulations and say goodbye and stuff like that. And I will be there in September if we can have a commencements thing. I want to be a part of that. And so I'll still be a part of that and I'll see you there and stuff. But I just want to let you know. And yeah, I hope you're staying well. And it is pouring out and there's thunder and lightning going on outside right now. So have a great night and I'll talk to you later. Bye.